Well, we begin with breaking news on the relationship between China and Canada. China has announced retaliatory sanctions against Canada and the U.S., including sanctions lobbied directly at Conservative MP Michael Chong. The Chinese action is in response to sanctions imposed on Chinese citizens and groups over human rights issues. China is accused of human rights violations affecting Uyghurs and other minorities in the region. Chong has been a vocal critic of the Chinese violations, calling the situation genocide. China has also sanctioned a Canadian subcommittee on international human rights. And joining us now is Michael Chong, Conservative MP and the Conservative Party's foreign affairs critic. Michael, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Good to be here, Andrea.
All right. So, what did you feel when you were reading this news?
Well, it's frankly a badge of honor. I think it speaks volumes that when China is called out for its gross human rights violations, its crackdown in Hong Kong and its genocide against Uyghur Muslims in Western China, that instead of allowing an independent UN investigation, instead of allowing the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights to come to China for unfettered access to do an investigation, they instead sanction people around the world for calling them out for these violations.
Now, were you expecting this kind of response from them?
I thought that it could come in recent weeks. I wasn't surprised. China's behavior as an actor on the world stage has been belligerent in recent years. They've attacked our citizens, they've attacked our companies, and they're attacking our fundamental values, our belief in human rights for all people around the world. And not just here in Canada, they've done the same thing to many officials in other Western democracies.
Now, do you expect this to further escalate the tension between Canada and China?
Well, I think the tensions are already at a high level. I don't think these sanctions are going to work. In fact, all they're doing is drawing attention to these violations of human rights. There are some 12 million Uyghurs in Western China that are being subject to a genocide. China has built hundreds of detention camps housing millions of Uyghur Muslims simply for being Muslim. It's unacceptable in this day and age, just some 75 years after another horrific genocide, for us to see this happen again. And so we have to call it out for what it is. We cannot turn a blind eye to these kinds of human rights violations.
So, Michael, what steps are you going to take now?
I'm going to continue to speak up. I will not be silenced in speaking up against these human rights violations in China, against China's violations of international law. China is violating the 1948 Genocide Convention. It's violating the 1984 joint declaration between China and the United Kingdom. And I will not be silenced in speaking up against these violations of international treaty. I call on the Liberal government to do the same, to speak up and stand up for human rights both here and abroad, and to uphold the international rules-based order. We cannot allow a state actor like China to thumb its nose at international treaties. If we do that, the entire global system of rules-based treaties will fall apart. That's why it's important that we take a stand, and I think we should continue to do that even in face of these sanctions.
Well, you just mentioned the fact that you would like to see the Canadian government take a stand. What's the likelihood of that happening in your opinion?
Well, I don't know is the short answer. We continue to put pressure on the Liberal government to take a position on this genocide. We note that they often talk about working multilaterally with our allies, but often, when given the chance, don't. The United States has formally recognized that what is taking place is a genocide in Western China, and we call on the Liberal government to join our ally, the United States, and do the same.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us this afternoon. I know this is big news. We really appreciate you speaking to us. Once again, that is Conservative MP Michael Chong. Thanks again, Michael.
Thank you.